I just told you about the convoy of truckers in Canada's capital city of Ottawa, protesting government COVID restrictions and vaccine mandates. The mainstream media has mostly been pretending that it isn't even happening. My first guest is a Canadian journalist and founder of Rebel News. He says this isn't just an important story. It's the most important political event of his lifetime. Joining us now, independent journalist and attorney, Ezra Levant. Ezra, it is an honor to have you here. You're one of the few people that is actually on the scene and can speak authoritatively to what's happening. We're hearing from Prime Minister Trudeau that these are a bunch of criminals and they're doing terrible things in Ottawa. What's the real story?
Well, there are thousands of truckers in the city of Toronto. They've been there for about 2 weeks. Police report that crime in the downtown area, where most of them are, has fallen. There was a court hearing to get an injunction against the truckers. The only thing the judge would allow is to end the use of the big air horns in the part of the city, because there are people who live there and sleep there. And I have to say that's probably a reasonable thing to ask the truckers after 2 weeks to stop using those huge horns at night. But other than that, the judge issued no other order. There have been no arrests. There has been no violence. So all this talk of insurrection or violence, it's just basically a street festival. There's men, women, and children. There's bouncy castles. They're having ice hockey games. It's a very Canadian protest, completely peaceful. But boy, does it irritate Justin Trudeau.
Why doesn't he just go and sit down with a group of the truckers and listen to them for an hour and have a conversation? That would be so simple.
Well, polls show that's exactly what Canadians want him to do. And he has met with other groups, including some groups that have been regarded as extremists. He actually attended a Black Lives Matter protest and took a knee. He spoke in support of truckers who were having a protest in India, of all places, but he has adamantly refused to meet with these truckers in Canada. And he's actually scorched the earth. He's called them racist and sexist, and he's even implied that they're Nazis. By the way, they're very ethnically diverse. A lot of Canadian truckers are Sikh, they're Indo-Canadian. So to call them racist just doesn't even make any sense.
Ezra, Americans get a lot of their news maybe from the Canadian news media. Why is that not a very trustworthy source for the Americans who don't understand how the Canadian media really works?
Here's 2 points. The largest media company in Canada, larger than all other news reporters combined, is the state broadcaster, the CBC. So they pretty much are an organ of the government. And everyone in the smaller private sector is sort of tailoring their work so that if they lose their job in the private sector, they can go work for the CBC. And a couple of years ago, that wasn't enough for Trudeau, so he announced a massive newspaper bailout. And 99% of the newspapers in Canada took it. So he owns the CBC and he rents the newspapers. I think there's probably fewer than 10 media outlets in our whole country that aren't on the payroll in some way. Rebel News is one of them. And we're just a little grassroots organization. We have only 52 employees compared to thousands at these other entities. But just with our citizen journalists just pointing their smartphones at what's happening and just uploading the truth, I think we've managed to tell the other side of the story. Especially after so many lockdowns, we can gather together again. And there's so many Canadian flags. It's so patriotic. And I've never heard the word freedom spoken so much in Canada. It's always been a bit of a liberal, slightly socialist country. But wow, to see Canadians of all backgrounds say the word freedom again, I get goosebumps.
Ezra, I think you're giving us all goosebumps because if it weren't for organizations like your own Rebel News, we wouldn't know what's going on. But the important factor in all of this is that they just want their lives back. Isn't that really the essence of their protest?
This is the most real uprising, certainly in my lifetime in Canada, and people can see that. And that's why Trudeau's insults bounce off, they ricochet right off these truckers, because people see with their own eyes that these are the good guys, and they've given us courage to stand up and say, yeah, I'm tired of the lockdowns too. They've given us a seed crystal around which we can form, because no one else did that in Canada.
Well, Ezra, I hope that there are some American politicians paying attention, and maybe it will bring some common sense to them. We are so grateful to have you on, so very glad of what you're doing for the truckers and for the people of the world in helping get the truth out. Thank you for joining us. It's a real honor to have you.
My pleasure.
Well, if you want to learn more about Ezra Levant and Rebel News and their coverage of the Canadian truckers, if you go to our website at Huckabee.tv, we have links directly to Rebel News and all the things that are going on there. So it makes it easy for you to navigate and get the information. And I hope you will.